And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
Next, I am excited to invite to the stage Peter Quinn, who is born in Astoria from a seafaring family, a local, everybody. So his connection to all things maritime has been nurtured as a serial boat owner, live aboard, as well as working for the Northwest Maritime Center in Port Townsend. His lifelong relationship with the Columbia River Maritime Museum, one of my favorite places in the world, which his father helped to found, continues to float his boat. I did not write that line. That is on the piece of paper. It's good. It's good. Graduate of Lewis and Clark College, he received the Academy of American Poets Award as a senior. And Peter published Painting Circles on Straight Highways in 2012 and Small Things in 2023. Let's give it up for Peter Quinn.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate this. I spent a lot of time in this theater when it was not in quite such good shape. I saw Lawrence of Arabia here. I saw a lot of movies here when I was a young lad. And I'm very, very glad to be here today. My father was a Columbia River bar pilot, and that's why I'm here today. I also was able, during the 1970-71, I worked on the summer boat, not the winter boat. I worked on the summer boat, the Columbia, and it took the 4 full day shift for my stomach to stop gurgling. And if I took the helm, which I did as many hours as I could possibly do, it would stop gurgling for about an hour and a half, which was time to get enough sleep. So I'm here to give you a glimpse of the bar pilot's life, as seen through his son's eyes. And with your permission, I'd like to dedicate this reading to my father, Captain Edgar Quinn, who died at sea in 1973. So, I'm going to read 3 poems, and the first one is called Cribbage Lessons. Whoever played cribbage, I'm up for a game anytime, so. And then I need glasses. Cribbage lessons. On top of creosoted pilings, decades-old building, a dock inside and out, pilots awaited their turn, their chance to shove a ship upriver to Portland, nudge it around bends against current 2 feet off bottom. Or they'd feel a ship through eddies around always shifting sandbars, rolling through waves and currents only the Columbia River bar could make. In a big square room, gray-green walls, brown leather chairs, seeped with cigar smoke, mingled with the burnt syrup nose of creosote, men said, ease and see. I would drop by after school, find Tom Clark, retired Navy, keeping the pilots organized. He was the source of the cigar smoke. Just a hint of sear in it, a round dollop of smooth tobacco in the air. Usually I found a pilot or 2. They liked to play cribbage. I played too, a quarter a game. 15-2, 15-4, a double run of 3 is 12. 9-year-old got seasoned, risking $1 for the lesson. My father would come in ready for his shift. I could never tell if he was mad or amused. He'd ask if I was up or down. Up meant that I went home immediately. Down meant another game, which somehow I always won. I read here 12 years ago, and I read this poem 12 years ago, but most of you probably haven't heard it. This poem is called Dad's Words, and it's about my father's. He had an accident just before the Columbus Day storm in 1962. He and a pilot boat crewman survived, but one man did not. It wasn't until 11 years later, when I was 19, that the sea finally got him. About 15 years ago, my sister gave me the family Bible, Pacific Graveyard, and when I opened it to look at it, out dropped this baggie and these yellow sheets of paper. I discovered it was, for the first time in my life, I'd never seen them before, was the notes that my father made to testify in front of the Coast Guard inquiry into what my mother called Ed's swim up the coast. His words are interpreted, his words are interspersed with my 8-year-old memories and experience. And whenever, because I can't really mimic his British accent, whenever I use these words exactly as written by him, I'll raise my hand so you know that I'm using those words. Dad's words. At 20:40 hours, I turned in my bed, worried about the darkest places of my room, the bear underneath me. At 20:40 hours, he sat in the bow of a 16-foot dory, 10-horse Evinrude chugging in the well, made the 100 yards between two vessels amid the malevolent swells of the Columbia River Bar. On September 28, 1962, 2040 PDST, while transferring from motor vessel Olympia Maru to pilot vessel Peacock, 16-foot dory capsized. Crewmen Bill Wells, Don Nelson, and Captain Quinn into the rough seas. All three made it back to the dory, righted her, and climbed aboard. Dory completely swamped. Due to poor visibility and rough seas, neither the pilot vessel nor Olympia Maru could find us. The boat settled in, water full to the brim. It would be 8 hours before his nightmare found me. While I slept, he swam back to the boat where he sat in soggy water to the gunwales, freeing oars, finding oarlocks, blades biting frothy waves as they were swept away from freighter and pilot boat. 400 feet of safety, now 500 yards away. It took 30 seconds. His $10 Timex counted the hours. Stayed with Swamp Dory, rowing as able throughout the night. No sign of rescue at dawn. Unable to bail the boat at any time, completely awash. His wool pants, warm but rough, rubbed layers of skin raw as he sat in the scouring salt water up to his chest. 40-degree ice, rowing for warmth, not direction. Bill Wells had faded, gone numb. They sat behind him on the thwart, their hands over his on the oars, forced his body through the rowing motions to keep him there. They talked to him. They slapped him. Bill Wells died at 1,100 hours of exposure. He didn't drown, just ran out of life, sucked dead by the cold. Attempted to make Willapa Harbor, utilizing favorable set and both oars. Passed south of Sea Buoy, but due to northerly set and currents from Willapa, could not make the entrance. After 14 hours, a 30-mile drift north, Safe Harbor threw them back, shoved them to sea with current and wind as weapons. At 14:30, U.S. Coast Guard plane flew overhead, but did not see us. 16 hours ago, I slept and he swam. Now I wept, the news delivered to my 8-year-old self. Dreams began. I imagined finding him, bringing him home. Decided for head for breakers at Westport. Last Wells body to boat, rigged lines to aid us in returning to boat when in breakers. I sat in different places, awed by the people in our house. Casseroles, cakes, and pies came and came. Every pilot's wife was there, threatened by your loss, which could be my loss. My head was a good luck charm. Patting heads used me for comfort and gave none. Approximately 1,700 hours, entered breakers and capsized several times, but able to stay with boat until grounding on beach. The talk never stopped. Laughter sometimes. Different people arrived, said the same things. I listened, content to be ignored. Comfort his closed eyes, imagined him home. Wells' body carried away in breakers. Mostly, I rolled into a ball, cloaked myself, stayed away from the terrible words no one would stop saying. It was time to give up. They only waited for bad news now. The storm hadn't stopped. No one could have made it. Be there for survivors. Comfort them, feed them. Don't leave them alone. Nelson and I landed at Westport, approximately 1,800 hours after 17 and a half hours adrift in swamp boat. Emotions couldn't exist. Hands were wrung, hands were held, hands were limp with exhaustion. The crescendo of disaster was a certainty. We finally walked to Deputy Ellwangers at Twin Harbor Park, who took us in, notified families and pilots of our safety, and arranged hospital. Phyllis Eady, stationed to ward off calls from the press or the Coast Guard, spare my mother the news of grief, answered our phone. "Who are you? What do you mean he's sitting in your living room?" "Oh my God, BJ, it's Ed. They've been found." No one found us. We saved ourselves except for Bill. We walked 4 miles to the Ellwangers, for Christ's sake. They almost didn't let us in. I got happy with everyone, but I wasn't happy. Bad things could happen. Dads could die. Not today, but tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I kept a little knot of ready inside me, just in case. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a poem I can only read to a bunch of boaters and fishermen. It's a love letter to a boat. And the boat is the pilot boat Peacock, which is on the Hard in front of the Maritime Museum right now. She came to us in 1967 and was a very big part of my life. So this boat was a piece of my life, an homage to the pilot boat Peacock. Teacher, tester of metal, threw me against her bulkheads, made me hold tight as waves rolled through both of us. My stomach. The bar is all about the roll, unless it's all about the slam of water walls split by the bow, the deck more dry than it had a right to be. This boat was proud. Her nose stayed up, snorted froth, blew it like a stallion, rose and begged for more. A narrow beam made her skittish, and she tick-tocked with each roll, a pulse doing double time, but always on top of it. This boat was an 87-foot Greyhound with armor, 27 knots with 3 screws, sucking water past her double hull. Drawing 3 feet, she could turn tight. This boat was always ready. KOK 360, KOK 360, this is the motor vessel Eastern Taki calling the Columbia River bar pilots. When ships came out easy, from easy into worrying water, it was this boat they had to know would be there. Give them a pilot to take their hand and tell them it would be okay. It didn't matter how bad, the lightship and the Peacock was always out there, where buoy 10 was the beginning, not the end. This boat was steadfast. There were times she would have gone down. She fell 35 feet off a boomer, nothing but air. 2 feet of water in the cabin meant 3 feet in the engine room, but this boat wouldn't go down. 2 engines still hummed. The rapid metronome of beautiful pumps kept the water at bay. God bless pump makers. When she homed into the dolphins at the foot of 14th Street, grateful relief for 3 soaked, shaking men, shaking so much they vibrated. March of 1973, Peacock was there when a Jacobslander, guitar-strung my father, snapped him down between small boat and ship for good. Then she followed my mother, sister's brother, and me on the pilot boat Columbia out 17 miles. The lightship to port, Peacock to starboard. A Navy DE came to pay their respects. A Coast Guard helicopter hovered, dropped a wreath. I uncovered the gold, squared cardboard box, kneeled, leaned over the side, braced against wind and roll, held by hands afraid I'd go in. I gauged the roll, held the box out far, attempted ceremony, tipped the box, let my father sift out. Gray ashes hit the water, dusted my face. I licked my lips and swallowed. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here tonight. Thanks.
The fire burns bright in the farmhouse fireplace. Closing the logbook, you start to sing. Fishing boats are iced in, snow outside calls me. It's a red late afternoon, I hear a church bell ring.
Okay, thank you so much for talking with us today about the FisherPoets Gathering. We really appreciate your stopping. Can I ask your names and where you're from?
Christine
And Phil.
from Portland.
Yeah.
And is this your first time at the Poets Gathering?
No,
Third.
it's our third time. Third time
Yeah.
at the post.
Okay.
Before COVID and this one.
So if you're here 3 times, you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's motivated you to come back. What is it you've super enjoyed about it?
Oh, the variety.
The variety. Yeah. There's some of the artists you want to hear longer, and yet 15 minutes, and then you're on to kind of somebody else, and the songs and the poetry and the prose, and some of it's very heartwarming, and some of it's just funny.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, I know we only had performances last night that you probably went to. We haven't seen tonight's yet, but for what you've seen so far this year, what was your favorite?
Oh, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's such a variety.
It's the immersive experience, and there's such heart from each of those that are presenting, and it's such an honor and privilege to be in the audience. So we're loving all of it.
Oh my gosh, you were the perfect people to interview. So you said that so beautifully. So tips for anybody coming in, or anything you want to tell them to lure them in?
You can't go wrong with any of the venues. Just pick one, and I don't know.
And you can always get up and walk at any time, and it's so welcoming here in Astoria, and it's a perfect spot. And it's small. It feels like intimate encounter, being able to hear these such personal stories, and then you get to mill around and see faces that look familiar and new faces, and you just come. You're gonna love it.
You know what? It's been my privilege to talk with the two of you. Thank you so much for your time.